Today we'll be playing Hegemony Gold, Wars of Ancient Greece. We'll play with just the simple first scenario, just to show the game off. So let's begin. We'll play on Expert. Let's play on Normal, just show how the game normally is, right?
The Kingdom of Macedon was a weak, tribal kingdom when the Illyrians invaded Upper Macedonia from the west. King Perdiccas III mobilized the entire Macedonian army and marched forth to stop them. The army fought bravely, but were no match for the battle-hardened hoplites of the Illyrian king, Bardarus. In the thick of battle, Perdiccas fell to an enemy spear, and his army was slaughtered around him. With news of the defeat, the king's younger brother Philip returned from fighting in the east. The heir to the throne was Amyntas IV, an infant. The Macedons gathered to elect another king in his stead. Philip's half-brother Archelaus made a claim to the throne, but Philip proposed an alternative to supplanting the heir. After a fierce debate, Philip compelled the assembly to elect him as regent to act on behalf of the infant king. Archelaus was put to death as a traitor. The Kingdom of Macedon had leadership once again. Hope had been renewed. But Philip would have to regain control of the Macedonian cities and drive the invading armies out of Macedonia if the kingdom was to survive.
So we have a very basic tutorial here to start with. You'll see that this game is pretty big. Now we're going to get our first guy. Here we have Philip. Philip is a general, so he can't really fight, but he can do other things. If we take him around here, we'll see that we have some companion cavalry hanging out over here. Philip, as a general, can attach to them, and you'll see him merge into the unit. Generals provide buffs to the unit's stats, which we'll talk about a little later. Units, of course, require food, so if we go over to this nearby farm, our soldiers can stock up. Now we can see our first enemy. Here they come. We'll send our companion cavalry to charge them. An easy win. They're running away. We'll let them run. We're not concerned with them. Instead, we'll continue on. Head up to this city here that's being sieged and attempt to liberate it. With these guys, we're not going to let them run. We're going to capture them. So when units are captured like this, they can actually be converted into slaves. We'll talk about slaves a little later. Instead, we're going to store them in this city for now. And then we're going to move on to the Macedonian capital and try and restore it or liberate it. You see that when we move out, we can see our armies as these little tiled creatures, which is pretty nice. Being able to fully zoom all the way in and out is pretty great. We can see that they're burning the farms here around the capital. These are soldiers that the enemy have are just skirmishers, so they're pretty much here just to die, just as a tutorial. If these were actual hoplites, we would not be having such an easy time at all. We're going to capture as many of them as we can though. Slaves are important for running our economy. One thing about slaves is if they're left alone for too long, they will run off on their own and escape. Units can also be combined in this game. As you see, we have the two groups of slaves now. We can merge them together into one group. just to make it a little easier to manage them. Now let's capture the capital here. Or should I say liberate? We've completed our first objective that we're required to win the game. One of the things about this game that's very important is the idea of supply lines. So as we've captured this farm here, we can begin connecting it to the capital, which will ensure that food is produced at the farm and then shipped to the capital. We can do the same with this farm. There's also this shrine up here. Shrines are usually provide some unique benefit. This one is a healing shrine. And so will allow units to replenish without having necessary supply to. You'll see that having the shrine costs money. So the way money works in this game is you don't gain money. Instead, we simply have expenses and income. And if our expenses are too high, we go into the red and get negative effects. And as long as our expenses remain below our profits, we are in the black, which has positive effects. One of the things we're going to do is use our slaves, start building a wall around our capital. And we're going to start creating some units here. We have quite a few units we can potentially produce. Once a unit is recruited, they take time to actually replenish. They start off with no soldiers in them and have to gain soldiers over time simply by staying in the city. You can see here, we can see the recruits of a city as they replenish the regiment or army, I suppose. The recruits convert into soldiers. You can also see the city's population. Usually you can't influence city population, except for outside of some events, which may give you settlers that you can settle inside of cities. While waiting for those guys to replenish, let's go around and capture some of these farms. We'll also start tying our farms to our cities. Another thing we can do with our cities is we can tie them to each other to create supply lines, which cause a little bit of profit, which can help maintain our economy. We can see that the army we have will even replenish when outside of the city because soldiers will leave from the city to join them. We'll have them help start building the wall around the city together with the slaves. It will take quite a while, but it's best to get one up. Walls prevent cities from just being conquered instantly, as you can imagine. There are situations where you don't actually want walls though, but we'll talk about them when we come to them. We're also going to start recruiting armies in these other cities. You can see here we can't recruit some of the better regiments because we don't have enough profit. We'd end up with a deficit if we produce some of the better units. So instead we'll produce some simple spear brigades. We can always just decommission them at a later date. We also have forts here. Forts have some strategic use, but personally I tend to not use them that much. One of the things of note about slaves is if they spend too long on their own, they'll just run off. So they need to be guarded or stay close to someone who will guard them. We'll have our spearmen start building forts around. We've spotted the Athenians. This game does have diplomacy, but it's rather limited. We're either at war with a country or we're not, kind of. The Athenians are going to periodically just attack us, as you can see them doing now. So we're going to bring everyone down and try and intercept them. We'll get to see what it's like to... You'll get to see what it's like to have our armies all gathered up. I'm going to order our soldiers to run so they can arrive in time. This city has walls, which makes it a little harder to take it. The Athenians, as we can see, there's only about 2 of them, and they're mainly hoplites. But our cavalry, companion cavalry, isn't really going to have a good time against them. We're going to put our companion cavalry out at the side. Cities can actually fire at enemies. So once they come into range, they'll start sieging the city, and the city will start firing back at them. They're going to try and cross to attack the guys on the other side. We're going to form up, let battle begin. Then we'll have our brigades inside the city break out and join the fight as they try and cross the river. And then I'll have our companion cavalry come and hit them from behind. As we can see here, morale really affects how long an army will keep fighting before they just run. Different units have different levels of morale. As we can see, the enemy hoplites have around 125 maxed. There they go, start to break. They've been defeated.
Claiming to be the rightful king of Macedon, Augeas turned his men against the kingdom he purported to lead. But Augeas underestimated Philip's military prowess. The pretender died as he lived. The kingdom began to recover, but it remained in peril. Not content with killing King Perdiccas, Bartolus began assembling a massive army for his return to Macedonia. Philip would have to confront Bartolus and force his hand, or the kingdom would surely be lost.
So we've defeated these guys. Now we can start capturing them and try and put them to use as slaves. More slaves are always good. Unfortunately, we don't have access to any way to use them yet. That will come a little later. You'll see here we have all these objectives. As we do them, we usually gain some sort of benefit, either in gold or maybe a new unit or a new hero, or someone will level up. Speaking of leveling up, you'll see that our units have skills: initiative, logistics, heroics, engineering, which we can increase as they level up. We gain skill points, which we can spend on these things. Personally, for companion cavalry, I like to level up their initiative, making them faster, also affecting how far they can see, making them better scouts. Another thing we can do is we can simply decommission certain units once they become less valuable. For example, we have these spearmen. They're not very good at anything really other than kind of just occupying territory. So if we want to, we can always just decommission them by sending them back to the city they came from. We can decommission them from there. We're going to decommission these guys here. And then we're going to replace them with one of our actual good units. Take some time for them to recruit it, as usual. Since the Athenians have become hostile, it's worth that we build these watchtowers around the coast. They'll give us some line of sight for the sea in case the Athenians try to attack us. In fact, there's some now. Look, here there comes their ships. Looks like they're heading straight for our capital. As they do, we'll quickly bring everyone over that we can. Order them to run. Philip's here with his cavalry. We can always just hide in the city. The walls aren't fully built though, which means the enemy can just start sieging the city down very easily. We'll have to hope that we can hold them off. You can see they start pillaging our caravans. What have we got? We've got one hoplite and one skirmisher. We're going to have Philip actually jump out and attack the skirmishers. We can eliminate them before the hoplites have fully disembarked. It'll make things a little easier. Luckily, our reinforcements have arrived. They should be able to deal with the hoplites, or at least confront them. We can see them engaging. Philip has defeated the skirmishers. The Athenians are foolishly so far from home that they won't be able to escape, so we'll just capture them and they can integrate them into our slave forces. See if we can't get the city's walls online quickly though. There we go, we've completed the walls around the city. That gives us an extra general who spawns here. It also gives us some of these militia. These militia aren't very good, but they're nice just as a garrison force for the city. I don't believe they actually cost any money, so they're just good in general. We'll probably just leave them here to garrison the city. We've got a few generals, so we'll have them leave the city and integrate into our existing armies. And now we're going to start trying to liberate the rest of Macedonia. We can actually see there's a hostile army approaching. They're coming around the cliffs. Luckily the city here does have a wall and it does have a garrison, although a small one. So we're going to rush it. We're also going to bring our slaves. We'd like to put them to work so we can actually make more money. Because as you can see, we're close to our cap of our income versus expenses. Looks like the enemy didn't like getting a shot at by our city. So they're probably going to turn back around. While they're doing that, we're going to move north and liberate another Macedonian city up here. Over here you can see that there is a mine. So this is our main use of slaves, really. We can assign slaves to mines and they will produce gold, as you can imagine. We can produce just normal civilian miners, but they cost gold to maintain, whereas slaves are free and therefore produce gold for free. You can see here we're now at we're over our expenses limit from capturing this shrine. One thing we can do is we can just abandon buildings if they're costing us too much gold. For example, we can just abandon this watchtower, which brings our gold cost down. We've liberated this city. We'll start building a wall here because this is a Macedonian city. So cities actually have culture. You have just your default Macedonian cities, but as we encounter more cities with different cultures, we'll actually struggle to keep them on side because different culture cities will require garrisons to actually keep them in check. Without a garrison, they'll become rebellious and can even rebel fully and become independent. You can see we gained some migrants from one of the objectives being completed. Migrants are a unique kind of unit. We put them in a city and they permanently increase the city population, which increases how much money we make from the city through tax, as well as how high the recruits can be and the recruit growth rate. So they're always good. It's best to just throw them in somewhere. So now that we have a gold mine operational, we're going to send these slaves in to work in it. There's a cap of 40 possible workers inside of a gold mine, or just a mine in general, I suppose. Since there's only 34 slaves here, we're going to try and look out for some other slaves we could potentially send into this mine. In they go. So one of the things of note about slaves is they can rebel when they're wandering the world and they require soldiers near them to remain in check. But once they're inside a mine like this, we can leave them to their own devices. They won't require a permanent garrison to keep them happy. And there we go, we're making 60 gold from the guys in that mine. Delicious. We do have these other slaves, there's a lot of them though, so we're not going to be able to get them all into the mine, but we can assign as many as we can into it. We'll have them head up over. Since we have so much gold now, we're going to start producing more units. We've got a guy up here, we'll assign our general in the city to him. It's always good to keep an eye out for generals who newly spawn, because you gain them through doing quests and the like. Now, how should we expand? We could just go north, or we could go west. Both are former Macedonian lands, so it's good to take them. We can see there's a mine up here, which means gold. Gold is always good. But the enemy did try and attack us from this direction, so maybe it's a good idea to head this way first and fight the potential attackers. I think we'll do that. We'll take our army. This army is now almost fully recruited, but the recruits in this city are now at 0, so it's going to take a while for the recruits to replenish. So I think we'll deploy them. They can join up. You'll see that when armies move together, they actually move in these stacks, where they all move in formation together. And we can command this stacks movement here on the map, as you can see. The companion cavalry also leveled up, so we'll level them up again. So here we go. This is another former Macedonian province, occupied by the Illyrians. An important thing to keep an eye on is food. Wow, there's actually quite a lot of soldiers in this city. Let's see if they come out to meet us. They haven't got a wall, so really they have no choice. Try to form up in such a way that we could potentially flank them. Now we'll use our companion cavalry to head towards the city. We'll start capturing it, which should cause them to come out. Here they come. We'll fall back with our companion cavalry. Run. Philip has decided to not run, so I guess we're engaging with everybody. Our companion cavalry actually got broken. Now they're going to go home. This is a good chance to mention how this works. So when an army is defeated, they'll just try and run back home. If they can, the more of them that make it home, those units will merge into the existing group that is assigned there, which ensures that it would take less time and resources for them to reach their max strength. So as I was mentioning, food is a big concern. It costs food to maintain your garrisons. Troops require food, so you can potentially cut off food supplies for cities and cause them to starve. For example, if we capture the one farm here, you can see the food has started to drop as they are no longer receiving supplies from their farms. We're of course not going to wait for them to fully starve out because that would take too long. We're just going to start capturing the city and force them to come out and fight us. Here they come. Luckily for us, their army is mainly skirmishers and mercenaries. Because we're so close to the city, they're going to have an easy time just fleeing back into it. So it's going to be hard for us to capture them. We managed to capture these guys though. Now we'll capture the city. There we go. Because this is again a Macedonian city, we can continue to recruit our good units. You'll also see these little shepherding symbols on the map. Every year, sheep will spawn in these areas that we can then eat for food or send into the cities. These guys have managed to level up, much like Philip's companion cavalry. For our main units, I prefer going for heroics because it increases how much morale they have, which causes them to be able to fight longer. Siege is definitely better. Engineering is definitely good as well because it increases how fast they can build as well as how fast they can siege. We're just going to scout a little to the south so that we can learn about what's... Whoops, I'm sending a slave. I didn't mean to do that. I wanted to send these guys down there to see what's going on. We know that there's a green province up here, so there's Illyrians to the north, Illyrians to the west, and to the south it also looks like there's Illyrians. I think what we'll do is we'll try and clear up the Illyrians in the southern part of the world first, so that we can secure our south. There we go. This is another province. There we can see there's a gold mine here. The sheeps have started to spawn. You can see how much food is on a sheep just from looking at them. We can capture the sheep, but if our soldiers are hungry, they'll just periodically eat them if they're nearby. So this city has a wall, so we're not going to be able to capture it as easily. We'll have to lay siege to the city, which can take quite a while as we don't have any military things that can help siege it. We can gain catapults from doing a quest, but for the moment, we'll do without them. You can see here our slaves have started to become rebellious because they've been too long without any units in sight. Luckily our units are right here. They're just being brought close enough helps to bring them in line. If slaves become rebellious, they can either just run away or they can become roving bands of armed slaves. Philip has recovered as well as his companion cavalry. I believe to the north here there was a catapult I think we could find. So we're actually going to look around a little with Philip because we're going to need that catapult to take the city over there. Otherwise it will be difficult. We can see that there's a city here that's a former Macedonian city that's occupied by another nation. We're not going to engage with them just yet. We don't want to cause too many conflicts with our neighbors. I guess we will be trying to take this city without catapults. There's a good chance the defenders will hop out to fight us. If they don't, they'll just shoot at us from inside, which will cause us to take damage, which isn't nice. Doesn't like they're going to jump out to meet us. Siege is definitely going to take a while. What's going on? We'll move around with Philip and look at things. We'll have these slaves immediately start building this mine over here, because that's where we'll put them to work once we take control of the location. It looks like they are running out to fight us. They're not going to do very well, nope. Ooh, these guys are trying to run. We'll capture them. More slaves are always good. Philip can help with sieging this location. Since we've gained some new slaves, we'll merge them with our existing one, which should bring these ones up to 40. And then we'll send our 40 slaves into the mine, where they'll probably spend the rest of the game working to produce gold. There we go, cheeky 80 gold. We've also successfully taken the city. We've also gained a princess. These are usually a scripted sort of characters. Usually we just need to move the princess and Philip to the capital, and he'll marry her, which will provide some benefit. Now that we've conquered the south, we can start thinking about elsewhere to go. I guess we're going to go north, as it should be. Start connecting our cities up to make money from trade. Since we're making so much money from our gold mines, we can start recruiting more soldiers. We can see our sheep army, together with our slaves and soldiers, is moving across. Because slaves move at a very slow pace, you can see that they're slowing down the rest of the army. If we were to split off the sheep and the slaves, you can immediately see how these soldiers speed up. Of course, splitting up from slaves has a whole nother problem, where they may become rebellious with nobody around to keep them in check, but it should be fine because we're inside our territory. One of our guys leveled up, so let's think what to do with him. We'll probably just increase his heroics as well. He actually leveled up twice. So I guess we'll increase his engineering as well. The cost of increasing these stats increases as they level up. So it's usually worth to scatter it about a bit instead of just going for all in on one. Who's that on the horizon? We've got some skirmishers. They shouldn't pose a threat to our mighty spearmen though, or phalanxes at this point. They're trying to run. There's actually two groups here. First one tried to run, the second one tried to run. Let's try and catch them. Might be difficult without the cavalry to catch them. Ooh, that looks like a lot of guys. It's the enemy king, and he's got a lot of hoplites. We'll see if we can't defeat them. We'll split our army up, try and flank. We'll also bring Philip over. It might be, the battle might end before he arrives though. We've routed that group. Another enemy army approaching from the north. We'll leave these two. We'll have these two engage them and try and hold them off while we successfully rout the guys down here. In a straight 1v1, our units are better. We are Macedonians after all. So if we can just hold back the large amounts of enemies long enough for us to whittle away at them, there shouldn't be a problem. There we go. Start capturing them because, you know, more slaves is always good. Never a time when you don't want slaves. I guess if you run out of mines to put them in.
When Philip arrived in Upper Macedonia, Bartolus saw that he had been outmaneuvered. In an act of desperation, Bartolus called for peace, but he would not be forgiven. With Bartolus defeated and his armies expelled from Upper Macedonia, King Perdiccas' death had been avenged. On his return, Philip was crowned both hero and king of the Macedons. Philip's newfound prestige laid the groundwork for his marriage to Olympias of Melosis and the birth of his heir, Alexander the Great. With Macedonia secured, Philip could turn his attention to the warring factions that surrounded the kingdom. In the south, the Phocians had invaded the Holy Temple of Delphi, and battle lines were already being drawn. A sacred war was inevitable.
And with that, we have successfully completed the tutorial. The red lines that blocked us from moving have now been removed, which also means we can now be attacked from every direction, which we will start to be. Athenians will arrive by ships and just land and attack us here. The kingdoms in the west will cross the river and attack our capital. The Athenians will keep attacking us until we successfully march all the way to the very ends of the earth and destroy them. But for now, let's focus on clearing up the former Macedonian territories that have been taken, or liberating them, as it were. There's quite a few mines in the area, which will be a good spot to put these new slaves into. See how I mentioned that we would be attacked from every direction? It's already happening. We've got some cavalry and some spearmen going for that city down there. We've got these skirmishers attacking us up here. We're going to have Philip turn around and come and help while we have our existing army start trying to take this city. Put the slaves inside the mine. And now we've got another attack by the Athenians. This is why it's kind of a good idea to leave garrisons behind and not take your whole army with you when you go invade other lands. Also why it's a good reason to build forts, so that it's not that easy for the enemy to just take your cities. They have to actually work for it. There we go, we cleaned up the Athenians, except for this small group. One of the annoying things is they will capture buildings, so we'll have to recapture them periodically if we can't stop them entering the country entirely. So why it's a good idea to build a large garrison here and have them intercept the enemy when they come. The Athenians are occupying this city over here, but actually this is an Athenian city. Maybe we'll come and take it just so I can show off how the system works. Surely it should all be fine if we just recruit some guys and leave them to defend these lands for the moment. Bring our main army down. We'll have them run so they can get there faster. This game's all about trying to set up these big supply lines and army supply lines and maintain them without everything falling apart, which is harder than it sounds. While at the same time trying to not overextend too much. There's a mine down here. That would be a good use of these captured Athenians. We've got these guys in range. If we look, there's not actually that many units in these cities, and they're mainly spearmen. He is recruiting some hoplites, and he's actually moving some more guys over to help protect the city. I guess we will hang back a little, wait for a better opportunity to take it. Since he's moving so many troops into this city, we're actually going to ignore them. Which sounds silly, right? But instead we're going to go for his other city, a little further along the coast, to try and draw him out. Let him choose whether he wants to save this city up here, or whether he'll come down and fight us as we take the other one. These cities do have walls, so it's going to be a little hard for us to take them, but I'm sure it'll be fine. This city's walls are actually very strong at 1,500. It's going to take us a while to siege it down if we'll be able to at all, and the defenders will be shooting at us as well. That's why it would have been a lot better to have siege weapons while doing this. Unfortunately, these cities are also trading via sea, so that helps them maintain their food income. You can see our soldiers are starting to run because of the casualties they're taking in the siege. One of the things of note is the recruits. Once you have recruited 40 soldiers, for example, in this city, you're not going to be able to recruit many more. Really, the recruit cap is really the cap for the unit. For units from that city. So there's not much point recruiting like 5 armies in a single city, because they won't have the recruits population to maintain an army of that size. Which is why you should really separate out your armies amongst your cities and keep an eye on the amount of recruits a city can maintain, but an idea of how many troops you should recruit in for how many armies you should have in each city. Speaking of how many armies we should have in a city, here we can see the Athenians moving in on us again. This time they're coming with actual hoplites, but surely our one group of guys can handle them easily, even if they can't. The same way it's hard for us to take a walled city, it's hard for them to also take a walled city. It took a little while, but we managed to take the city. We actually have a mission to tear down the walls of this city. So this city is, as you can see, not native Macedonian, which means it has unrest. Once it reaches a certain level of unrest, the city will revolt and become independent, or join the existing faction. Tearing down its walls is a good way to ensure their compliance. As you can see in this tooltip, you can see how many soldiers you need essentially to keep the rebellion in check based on its rebellion strength. So because now without the walls, the rebellion strength is 10. So if we just create a small army of hired spearmen, which we can't do right now because we don't have any money, because these guys are pillaging our mines. How dare they? But once that's done, once we can deploy those few soldiers in, that'll be enough to keep the city in check. Until then, we can just deploy one of our existing armies into the city or around the city to keep it from becoming rebellious. Taking the city also gave us access to this scholar. Once this scholar returns to our capital, he'll give us the technology, and he's represented by a giant head on the map. He'll give us the technology to recruit ships, which are always nice. We've almost finished sieging down this other city here. And there we go, this city's taken. As you can see, it's very rebellious, but this city actually has a special event, or objective as it were, where if we put Philip inside of it, it will become a new Macedonian city, and so we'll no longer need to maintain a garrison. And we can recruit Macedonian units in it as well. So that's that done. The Athenians will no longer trouble us from this direction at least, though they will of course attack us via sea. But once the scholar returns home, we'll be able to returns back to the capital, we'll be able to make our own ships, which we can potentially use to keep the Athenians from pillaging everything. We'll of course recruit a small group of spearmen in this city to keep it in check and stop it from rebelling. As you can see, when we look at recruiting units in a city, we can no longer recruit our good units. We can now only recruit these mercenary units. So mercenary units are basically just inferior to our normal units in every single way. They also don't gain experience. Mercenary units cannot level up, making them even worse because they can't grow in strength. Their purpose is not really for fighting, mainly just garrisoning. Doing anything else with them would really just be a waste of everyone's time. Speaking of waste of anyone's time, look at those Athenian guys showing up. Let's turn back around with our army and try and catch them before they cause too much trouble. Looks like they're deploying some cavalry, hoplites, some skirmishers. If that's everything, that's not too bad. Keep in mind though, this city doesn't have a wall, so it'll be very easy for them to capture it now. We do have the mercenary garrison inside the city that we can send out to buy time. Luckily our guys are able to arrive fairly quickly. We'll deal with them, and these are some new people we can assign to our mine. Wouldn't that be pleasant? These guys actually ran in towards the direction of the city, so we'll have the mercenaries jump out and capture them. There we go, cleaned them up. We'll send them all to work in the mines where they belong. Now we're going to reposition our army to the north and continue our righteous crusade against the Athenians. We do share a border with these people down here, but as long as they're not necessarily hostile, we don't have to worry about being attacked from them. We're not exactly on friendly terms, but as I said, as long as we don't take any hostile action, they don't usually attack us. Alright, we've gathered up our army. We're now going to cross the border into this northern territory. I believe this is also part of Macedonia. Yes, it is. So we'll bring the boys over. They haven't got a fort. They haven't got a wall here because just as we have to deal with unrest, they do as well. So we can see that this city requires 20 soldiers in it to garrison it and stop it from revolting and joining us. Although we're being attacked from behind. I'm going to turn our army around quickly. We'll leave some of them to continue what they're doing. The rest will turn around and have engaged our rivals in our back. They shouldn't be that tough. We've managed to liberate the city up here. We'll assign our slaves to build the wall, rebuild the walls. We'll also make use of any people the people that we defeated over here who are trying to attack us. They can also be assigned to build the walls. Then we'll bring all our guys up north. One thing I've noticed is these grey guys have started causing trouble, and they control land around here. Maybe we should hold off our continued advance against green, instead nip across and start dealing with them. I believe they control some territory that is a part of Macedonia, so eliminating them would be to our benefit, as it will bring more Macedonian land under our control. And look, there's a mine over there, which means bringing more money under our control. Ah, look, another mine. Looks like there's quite a few mines in this province up here. Definitely be profitable for us to take them. Ah, we've revealed their whole nation. We can see that they control around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 provinces. We take those 5, they should be fully eliminated unless they control more further up that we can't see. Let's have a look. Is this city a Macedonian one, or is it native to these people? This is native to their people, so we'll need to tear down the walls and assign a garrison once we take it. Looks like they really love making cavalry. Surely they won't be a big problem for us though. These guys actually have better cavalry than most nations because they're a tribal nation. They have access to these tribal cavalry, which are better than ours, except for our companion cavalry of course, but they're much better than the scout cavalry that most Greek nations tend to use. We're just getting a little bit overwhelmed by the amount of cavalry they have. We may actually lose here. I think I underestimated the power of this cavalry. Our spearmen / phalanx men aren't doing that good against their pure numbers. And the fact that we're fighting at the base of a city doesn't help, as the city's also firing down on us based on their garrison. Oh well. When we do rout them, if we do rout them, at least we gain some experience so that the potential for the unit to level up is there. There we go, they fully defeated us. How horrible could such a thing even happen? They're shooting our sheep! No, look at that. They're murdering these giant sheep using their ballistas. Why would they do this? Innocent sheep? Now they're capturing them. They'll probably kill them before they fully capture them. Awful. Oh well. Managed to get the wall online here. Next time I think we'll approach from this southern direction and take this city, which I believe is a part of Macedonia. We need to wait a little bit for our numbers to replenish though. So they didn't take kindly to our bullying. They're sending their troops in to take our precious mines. How could they do this? We'll send our small replenished units to respond. They're not going to do too well though, but they might deal some casualties. There's not many of these cavalry. We've actually interrupted them taking the mine, which is great because they've turned their main army around to try and stop us taking them, to reinforce their soldiers. Have our bigger army run down. Surely we should win this fight. What can horsemen do against the phalanx, obvious, after all? The thing is, these horsemen actually have very high morale. Probably because they're tribal units. Not high enough, clearly. We send them away. I think we're actually going to end the video here. I don't really intend for this to be a full playthrough, but more of just a showcase. Something I was talking about in a recent post I made. So let me know what you think. Do you want a full playthrough of this game? It can be very long and not that interesting because it's mainly just about setting up supply lines and fighting. Speaking of fighting, more Athelians are coming. Oh god, the humanity. Our precious sheep and slaves in the city, will they be able to hold them off? Probably not, because neither of them count as defenders. But either way, thank you for watching. Let me know what you think of this game, if you care to, and I'll see you in the next video, which will likely be related to Ye Old People's Republic.